Alright, so in this video we're talking about radian measure, and like we've already seen when we used our calculator has a degree mode for measuring angles in degrees and a radian mode for when we want to measure angles in radians. Now, radian measure is kind of like the metric system. Here in the United States, we typically still use feet, inches, miles, cups, gallons, that type of thing. In the rest of the world, they still use liters, meters, kilometers. Same thing when we're talking about degrees versus radians. In the United States, for the most part, we use degrees. However, the rest of the world uses radians. So it's very important for us to know how to use radians, because if you get the pre-calculus, AP calculus, or even beyond, almost all of that work is going to be exclusively only in radians. Very rarely past this point will you use degrees. Degrees are still important, but radians are kind of where it's at right now. So just keep that in mind. And just like with between inches and feet, cups and gallons, that type of thing, we can convert using formulas how to get from radians, how to get from degrees into radians, how to get from radians into degrees. To get to radians, all we do is take our degrees and divide it by 180 and multiply by pi. To get from radians into degrees, all we do is radians divided by pi radians times 180. Okay, so let's do an example of that. But first, a picture. This picture is super important. In fact, this is probably the most important thing out of the entire chapter, okay? Because what it does is give you a very good picture of some common angles and how they convert from degrees in red to radians in blue. For instance, 45 degrees is the same thing as pi over 4 radians. 90 degrees is the same thing as pi over 2 radians. 180 degrees is the same thing as pi radians. And 360 degrees is the same thing as 2 pi radians. Again, if you're planning on going on the pre-calculus or AP calculus, you need to know these conversions. Inside, outside, upside, down. So I honestly you don't really have to have it memorized for this class, but you probably do want to get it memorized for the future. Just FYI. Alright, let's do an example of converting from degrees into radians in part A, and then from radians into degrees in part B. So let's do part A in green. I'm starting off with 110 degrees. So to get my radians, I'm going to take 110 divided by 180 and then multiply by pi. Whenever you're in radians, it's always going to have a pi with it. Okay? And you do not round. Just keep that pi symbol. Okay? So what I'm going to do is use my calculator. Clear out anything else that's in there. So 110 divided by 180. And I want to turn that into a decimal. So I get, or into a fraction, I should say. So I get 11 over 18 pi. And typically when we're talking about radians, the pi is going to live up top. I mean, for whatever reason they put it up top, it doesn't really matter, but just go ahead and put it up top. So that means 110 degrees is the same thing as saying 11 pi over 18 radians. The way you could check yourself, I'm going to first put my calculator in degree mode, because that's what I started with. So be sure you're in degree mode. And I'm going to just do sine, cosine, or tangent. It doesn't matter which. I'm going to do cosine. So cosine of 110, hit enter to get my decimal. And now I'm going to switch my calculator over to radian mode and type in my radians. So cosine of 11 pi divided by 18. And I get the exact same decimal. Since I got the exact same decimal, I know I did my conversion correctly. Okay? Again, you got to be sure your calculator is in the right mode, though, for this check to work. All right, so in part B, let's do that in blue. I'm going to convert negative pi over 9 radians into degrees. So I have negative pi over 9. That's a fraction, so I'm going to put that in parentheses. Divided by pi times 180. That's the formula that we just saw a few slides ago. Alright, so what I'm going to do is just type this in my calculator exactly the way it looks. Don't forget the parentheses where it's needed. So I have parentheses negative pi divided by 9 divided by pi times 180. And I get negative 20. And that's in degrees. So what this is saying is negative pi over 9 radians is equivalent to negative 20 degrees. Again, I'm going to double check. using my calculator. I started off with radians. I'm going to make sure I'm in first radian mode. I'm going to do sine, this time, of negative pi over 9. Hit enter, get my decimal. And this time, now I'm going to switch over to degree mode and type in sine of negative 20 for degrees. Now I've got the exact same decimal, so I did my conversion correctly. Not a big deal. Super important that you know how to do this conversion though, because you're going to need to convert from degrees into radians, radians into degrees, pretty much from this point forward, for the rest of it until you're done with math completely. So make sure you know these two conversion formats. And as always, if you got any questions, let me know.